Welcome to the Breakfast Leadership Show, a top 2% global podcast and one of California's top leadership shows. Each episode brings you real-world insights on burnout prevention, workplace culture, and leadership excellence. And now, here's your host, Michael D. Levitt.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Grateful to be here.
I'm really happy to have you on the show. Seems like we booked this a long time ago, even though we didn't, but it's just one of those, every once in a while, I love all my guests. Don't get mad at anybody, but there's sometimes I see ones and I go, this one's going to be a really interesting one. And I get so much out of these conversations. So really appreciate your time today. Why don't you share a little bit about you and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Sure. My name is Jake Knox. I am just launching my first book that I wrote. That I've been writing for years. It's called Oak Logs and Gasoline, and it's a mentorship book geared toward both young people who are coming of age, conversations, things that are going to hit them whether they like it or not, and are you prepared for these things coming at you? Simple things for inside of yourself, how you're going to move forward, who you're going to be, the things that hit you like when you're going to be alone, when it's appropriate to check in with how you look on the outside versus how you feel on the inside, and how you're going to manage stress, and all those little things are tough conversations. And when is it really a good time to have that conversation with someone? When are you in your life with your ego sitting on your shoulder? Are you going to ever ask somebody how you deal with when you feel lonely? And on the reverse side of that is for the mentors who are walking beside these young people to be able to maybe find their voice in how to have these conversations. Maybe this is an easier way to bring these things up. I'm a dad. I have 4 sons. That's where this book came from. I've been coaching and mentoring my own sons for years. I have adult sons now. And that to be able to share some insight on, hey, other dad, your kid's struggling and you see it, but you avoid the conversation because it's uncomfortable and you don't know how to start it and you don't want to screw it up. And so you kind of kick the can down the road maybe. And so this book is there to kind of open that up and say, hey, it's okay to talk about these things. And this is how maybe you could start. And here's a bunch of different topics. You don't have to read it in order. It flows in a nice order, not for a lack of thinking about that. But I'm really excited for that to come out. And it started 4 years ago when my sons and I were kind of talking about, hey, Dad, we should start writing these ideas down. Dad, you should write a book. I can't believe all these different quotes that you tell us and every day. And they roll their eyes when they hear me say it again. And they're laying in bed and they don't want to get up and go to the voluntary practice. And I say, you got to get up and you got to show up. You have to get up and show up. Let's go. And they know when I say that we've already had the conversation. It's just kind of a little wake up for it. And so that's a big one. And there's a million other ones. And so that they're all sick of hearing, but it's shaped how we interact together, as a mentor and a mentee. And so it led to, since the book came out, and I just anticipated getting this book out. It was like a singular goal. Of going, okay, let's get this book out. And it immediately caught fire, metaphor intended, but it caught fire in the idea of what's happening, in the relief that I see in people that I talk about with this. They're like, oh, whoa, oh yeah, please help me. Like, can we talk about this? I have friends texting me and I read your book and I opened it up to page 63 and boom, this little nugget hit me and I already applied this. And then I'm talking to some other business friends of mine. They said, you know what you should be doing right now, Jake? You should be coaching. You should be mentorship coaching. And there's no reason why. You already got your platform, man. You did it. And so you have a curriculum and you have a platform. So that's the next stage for me, is what I'm working on actively, is kind of pivoting in my life. And the next evolution for myself is writing more, as well as using what's coming out and seeing the positive effect it's having on people, and trying to expand that to help as many people as I can.
You've definitely addressed a void that I've seen for a very long time, and we're seeing it now in workforces, for example. A lot of your Gen Zs and, younger millennials are entering the workforce, and they really have no clue what they're doing. Not that we did when we entered the workforce, but it's different. There things are more complex in the workplace with relationships, nuances, technology. What is this keyboard thing? What do you mean I can't touch my screen? What is this? Typing. I didn't do any of that. Just type on my iPad. It's like this key. I don't know. It's like, okay, here. Let's see if I can order an online version of Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing 400 or something. Here, there you go. Yeah, let's see, remember that app. I had a conversation the other day with somebody who is, I think, in her early 20s in a workplace event. And her eyes got this big when I told her, yeah, I learned how to type on a real typewriter, not an electric one, an old school early 1900s typewriter. And when I first typed onto an electric typewriter, my ring finger, the letter S was a little heavy. So if I'd hit the S, it'd be, 40 S's across the page. I'm like, ah, crap. If it had correction tape, great. Otherwise, you're using the liquid paper and, doing that kind of stuff. I'm really dating. Yeah, exactly. There's people that are our age that are going, oh yeah, I'm bringing back some trauma. Sorry about that, folks, but we're just telling the stories here. But like I said, it's filling a void because so many people, their parents may have been great and did everything they could, but those difficult, uncomfortable conversations, there's crisis, you know, but there's also crisis avoidance or conflict avoidance. And I think a lot of people go, I don't want to have this conversation because that might upset them. Well, if it's going to upset them, that's on them. And they have to figure out, why are they getting upset by this? What's making them upset about this? And it could be something as easy as just a past experience, or it could be something even deeper than that. But these little anecdotes and these little, just a saying that sticks with people. As parents, we don't necessarily recognize that what we say will actually stick with, and it's not a case where, yeah, we want them to remember it, but they not only remember it, but they take it as part of theirs and how they operate through life. And, may not be just with a kid. That could be a coworker or a conversation with somebody, or I remember you when you did this for me at work and that made a big difference. Thank you. It was a nanosecond thought or action on my part, but it was, making things better for that person. And the ripple effect of that was huge. So that's what's so important about this. And again, I congratulations on the book. And also, yeah, the coaching side of things, as you have discovered, there's a void there. And you can address it just based on just being who you are. It's that dad voice. And I know this is coming from a biased standpoint because I'm a dad as well. And I remember my father and my great grandfather and my grandfather, I remember briefly little conversations that I had, or just observing how they went about life or how they did things. And we don't get an instruction manual, and that's why books like this, when they come out, is, oh, this is one of those how to live books. Okay. This is going to be on the bookshelf. This is going to be worn out. It's going to have creases in it and everything else. Because, like you said, you can go to whatever page. It's like, okay, I'm dealing with this, or a colleague asked me about this. I do it. Oh, there's a quote. And you could say, it's like, oh, that sounds like a pretty good quote. You say it to that colleague, all of a sudden the light bulb goes off. And that barrier or blockage that they've been dealing with evaporates and goes away. And then they can do their next thing. And when we have that, I don't want to call it a superpower, but when we have that power to be able to do something like that, we must. It's the right thing to do. So
there's a chapter in the book called Superpowers, and it's about finding your superpower. It might just be the ability to brighten somebody's day. Could be your superpower, but superpowers and how you develop them. and how you use them for good, not bad. That's literally a chapter in my book. And you're right. I mean, it's a validation of this conversation that we're having right now, because I call it a continued conversation. I didn't invent anything in my book. I found some language that I hope resonates with people, but it's an age-old conversation that's been had between mentors and mentees forever, and it's going to go on until the end of time. And so this is just a continuation of the conversation. And my goal is to help other people find their own voice, to have these conversations through their own voice. I don't want you to talk to your kids in my voice. I want you to talk to your kids about these topics in your voice. And so sometimes just reading those topics first goes, okay, I can say this in my language to the people that I love. And that's that whole goal. And in that workplace, and talking more in a professional setting than in a parenting setting, there is a difference between how people like you and I grew up and how the younger generations, the 20-somethings, are entering the workforce. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. And the way we grew up is with, our parents talking to us. We had, when I was in high school, there was like 30 channels on a television, and you watched what was on when it was on. You didn't just immediately go and choose what you're going to feed your brain. In a capacity, you had to jump in to another cycle and get on board, or you go have a conversation in real time, and there was more interaction between people, voice to voice, face to face, on the phone that was stretched across the cord, stretched across the kitchen. And with social media, there's a detachment, somewhat of a detachment in conversation. And that's not addressed in Old Blogs and Gasoline. It is earmarked in my next Old Blogs and Gasoline. There's a volume 2 in process right now. There was enough information flowing over where I felt like I could, draw a line in the sand and go, okay, this is volume 1, more coming, which I'm really excited about. But there is that. And so I think it's even more important now for mentors to be able to get comfortable with talking again, get comfortable with having those conversations and mentoring people where they are at, not where you're at, and being able to recognize how simple you can start a conversation and make it a conversation. My teaching style is sitting around the campfire. The conversation sitting around the campfire, one-on-one in the truck driving to school. Hey, let's have lunch today at work with somebody and go, how's it going? Let's talk about that. Lay it on me, your perspective, and then we'll work with it from there. As opposed to the mentorship style of, here, come on, sit in this lecture hall because this guy's going to tell you about growing up. What's going to receive better? That space of feeling comfortable, like somebody cares about you, or you're another person being talked at. I mean, we're talked at all the time in our lives. Especially kids are feeling that way because people from our era are trying to like get their attention. And it's hard to get a kid's attention. I have a couple of high schoolers, a couple of kids out of high school, and man, I love that my older boys with more life experience are coming back and going, I like these conversations. These are, this is great. This feels good, Dad. Hey, Dad, can we talk on the phone? And I say the same thing to my high school kids. They're like, yeah, good. Okay. All right. Like, oh my God, I'm in pain right now. Can you please make this stop? And I know that I have to meet them in their space. And then I found tools to engage them, when they're ready to receive it and not force it when it's not going to be received. But that translates, I think, directly to young people in the workplace as well. And I think that you find these younger people want it. They're probably yearning for it. Some of them are yearning for it, and then have never gotten it, or have have a concept of what that wisdom coming to you feels like, but maybe haven't let it be received yet. I was sitting in the stands at a high school wrestling tournament a few weekends ago, and I heard somebody behind me, and I immediately like scrounged for a piece of paper to write this down. I heard, "Oh my God, my kid is 100% unparentable, but his coaches all say he is the most coachable kid we've ever met." Boom, mentorship. Sometimes where it's coming from is massively important. And that to me is the affirmation of helping coaches find their voice. Because I was the same way, man. I didn't want to hear it from my parents growing up. And I wish I could go back and just for that information inside of myself to go, what did my parents say to me that just bounced right off of my face and never sunk in for a minute? I wonder how much content there is there that I just resisted and didn't intake. And you can't have what you can't have, but I can take that sentiment and move it forward and go, here, coaches, look at this is the gap you fill. You're not just here to win tournaments. You're not here to win the state title. That's a great benefit, and winning solves a lot of things, but you're pumping out student athletes into the world. And what are you pumping out? What's your legacy going to be? And these kids' parents can't talk to them because they're mom and dad. And it simply is that. They love their parents, but they're not hearing it sometimes. And that's a wonderful opportunity to be a mentor there.
Most definitely. And yeah, you see that all the time. Oh, such a great kid. And you're like, I know it. Which one? Could you point that? Which one is it? Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Well, or like my brother and I mean, we were angels around our grandparents, and of course, maybe not so much around our parents. We weren't little devils, although they may have disagreed at some point on some things. But hey, that's what it's all about. But you're seeing there was a lot there, and a couple of thoughts came to mind, and and I'll use that coach versus parent analogy where. And this was when I was in college. My original career was in accounting. So I did taxes and audits. And I feel for the people right now that are entering that season at the time of this recording. You have my blessings and prayers. It's torturous for the next few weeks, but April 15th will come. Now, for taxpayers, that day is scary. For tax preparers, it's utopia. Finally is over. But I remember being in college, and there was a professor, and I took the class and had to drop it because I just wasn't doing well in it. And I said, okay, maybe I was just having a bad time. I don't know what's so I re-enrolled again. I'm like, okay, focus. I was doing great in other classes. It wasn't like I forgot how to study or anything like that, but did it again, same kind of results. I'm like, all right, something's amiss here. Is it, and I remember my dad saying, maybe you might want to consider a different career, because if you're struggling with this now in school, when you're out professionally, that might be an ongoing struggle. I don't know that, but let's talk about it. Think about it. I said, I want to try it one more time, but I'm going to take it with a different professor, because there was another professor who was teaching that class the next term. It was on a Saturday morning. And when you're in your late teens, early 20s, the last place on earth you want to be on a Saturday morning is a classroom. But there I was. I aced the course. And now I did two things. Number one, it was like, well, did you bring your old notes and study from them? No, I threw my old notes away. I completely just got rid of everything, bought a brand new textbook, everything. I went in there. Let's start this again. Slow down. Don't think about what happened. Those are done. Let's move forward. And it just flowed. And it was his teaching style and how he presented it was the same material. Clipped. I'm like, all right, go. And in conversations with people, sometimes I'll talk with somebody and they say, I've talked with so many people about this, but you're the first one that for some reason it's setting in. And I'm like, I'm listening, and I am spitting out words that come to mind. But
yeah,
apparently from a universal standpoint, or you're at the right place at the right time, it's hit them. and good. I'm thrilled about that. And it just, you just go into it. And I've been a mentor. I've shared this story real quick. Same college, by the way. But it was an alumni thing. I got a call from the Alumni Association saying, hey, we're starting up a mentorship program, and we would love if you would be a mentor to one of our grad students. I'm like, of course, that would be great. So I go back on campus for the first time in nearly 30 years. And they had modified it a bit, but there were still some things that were pretty cool. They had set up this accounting and business school. So you walk in and there was this wall and brick wall and stuff like that. Well, they gutted that out and they made it look kind of like a media room, like what you'd see on Bloomberg TV. They had a ticker scroll at the top, and I'm like, oh, and I know where my alumni money's going. Okay, that's good. Hey, that's pretty cool. I'm not upset with this. This is actually pretty neat. So I go there and meet the individual. He's a grad student. His wife was also a grad student, but and this was in Michigan. His wife was going to grad school in Illinois, and career-wise, she was going to end up making a lot more money than he would in his role. So, because they were going back and forth, so where do we want to live? Where do we want to live? And she had plenty of opportunities in Chicago. And he's like, I'm going there, every weekend, and coming back here, I'm tired and things like that. And I went, you know what? This is an accredited school we go to. It's well known. The credits transfer easily. Okay. It's not like this, you find a little corner or basement shop at a shopping center. It's like, no, this is a really good educational institution. Why don't you consider looking into the master's program or grad program at, I knew what kind of curriculum he was in, check out these 2 or 3 schools in Chicago. Said, if you need a letter of reference, I'll write one for you, but check it out. I mean, think about it. He's like, all right. And then about a month later, he says, you know what? I made the decision. I've enrolled to, I think it was DePaul he ended up going to. If I remember correctly. So he did that. So I felt great as a mentor. My college did not invite me back as a mentor because I lost some of students.
You outsource somebody.
That's not what we meant. We didn't mean mentor him to have him leave. I'm going to mentor him to be the best being. That means he leaves this institution. That's the right thing to do. But yeah, they didn't invite me back. I was like, why did they invite me back? I'm gonna kill it. Yeah, so I love it. It was such a great experience, and I love being a mentor, and I love being mentored because, and it is. I encourage people to play in both arenas, because one, when you're being mentored, do your best to say, hey, Mr. Ego, I'm gonna have you hang out over here at the neighbors down the street in the basement. Lock the door, padlock. Okay, we'll come get you eventually. I know you're gonna find you. Egos, find your way. You'll get out of. You'll escape. You're the best at escape rooms. Okay, don't worry about it. But I want to be there and leave ego away, so I can just say, hey, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? What are some ideas? And being a mentor is the same thing. I'm like, I'm gonna listen based on my perspectives, my experiences, or experiences of conversations I've had with other people. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Jake talked about this, a few months ago, and he said this, this, and this, and it was in his book. Here's, I'll buy you the book. There, it'll be in your mailbox tomorrow. There, good. It's like, no, just buy me a coffee. I'm good. But ultimately, it's when you can just share life experiences, it makes life experiences for others better in many ways, maybe a little easier because life is hard. We all know that. But if there's little twists and turns along the way, it's like, oh, that really helped. And maybe it's, this could be a career changing move, or it could just be having trouble connecting to my 14-year-old daughter who is nose deep into her iPad and, can't really get anything from her. And well, here's a pro tip. You want to talk to your kids? Change the Wi-Fi password. Yeah, it's
Right.
it's like The kids will come out of their dungeon real quick. What's wrong? Wi-Fi?
They'll even start the conversation.
Yeah. Hi. How are you? Good. What's going on? Is the Wi-Fi down? Yeah, it is. Oh, why? Well, you didn't pay the bill. I don't pay the bill. Yeah, I know you don't pay the bill. I was just checking to see if you were listening there. Okay, let me see if I can fix the Wi-Fi password. Okay, there you go. And okay. Oh, it's working now. Great. All right. Great talking with you. Hope everything's going well with you.
Good talk, Rex.
Yeah, so see you next week. Yeah. When I change password again. Yeah.
Right.
So, but there's so many opportunities. And I know your book, is little nuggets. Everybody, and this is something I was going to ask you and talk about too, from the coaching standpoint. And you alluded to this and how you approach it, but you did say something really close to this. A lot of times, coaches and mentors, they go, "I've got the mentor book and page 1," and no, meet them where they're at. It might be a page 42, or they could be a page 1, or somewhere in between. Meet them where they're at, give them what they need. It's like if someone says, "I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich." Don't say, "Okay, well, here's the history of how peanut butter was made." You could maybe tell them that as you're making it if they're interested, but don't say, let's talk about the history of peanut butter first. And at the end of the point, they already went on Uber Eats and ordered something else, and like, oh, never mind. Because those kids, they're smart. Somehow they got access to the credit card and they ordered the food, or they bought an Uber gift card. Who knows? But long story short, I think the work that you're doing and will do is so desperately needed and important. And obviously you saw it, you thought, and I love how you said this a moment ago, my goal was, I want the book out. Boom. Mission accomplished. Book is out. Physically, I can touch it. There it is. Great. And all of a sudden it went, hey, look at all these doors that just flew open. And, wasn't thinking about that. That's what happens when you get into the game. That's what happens when you do something and you take action. Things happen. And sometimes we expect what they happen. Sometimes we're like, I didn't see that. But, obviously, kudos to you for, taking the time and effort to write a book, because we know and you said it's taking you years to do it, but you got it. And now well into volume 2, congratulations. And
Thank you.
All that. So as we close, anything you want to highlight or bring up and that we've had over our conversation so far?
I think the last thing I wanted to note just from the last few things that you were saying is, meeting those kids where they're at. And I guess this can be my closing thought for the conversation is, when that kid comes to you and you're a mentor, and that kid comes to you and you're prepared to listen as opposed to tell them what to do, and they say to you, the sky is green, and your immediate reaction inside of yourself is to correct and say, buddy, the sky is not green. The sky is blue. Obviously, look up. Let's do this. That approach is authoritative and corrective, and it doesn't land with a lot of young people because they don't want to be told that they're wrong. They don't want to be met with, you're dumb, you're wrong, this isn't correct, this is what's right. A different approach may be, hey, the sky is green. Okay, how did you come to that conclusion? What did you see that would make you think that the sky was green? Boom. Now we're in a conversation. Now you just put it back in their court to tell you more about them. It gives them the authority and the license to speak more about what they believe right now, as opposed to being immediately shut down. When you're shut down in the conversation immediately, and this is directly translatable to people at work, subordinates at work, people who you manage. If they come to you and say, this is this, the sky is green, and you say, no, it is not, get back to your desk, you just shot them down, and you just told them that it's not safe to come and talk to you. And they might go back immediately and realize the sky is blue and it wasn't green, and then go, oh my God, I'm oh my God, I can't go and talk to this person about the next thing. Whereas you have that conversation the other way. How did you come to that? Oh, well, you know what? If you look at it this way, now what do you think? Oh, sure enough, there was just some film in front of the glass. We got the sky is blue. Okay, cool. So we look at it from another perspective. Awesome. Good work. Thanks for bringing that to me. And what are we doing next? That approach, it's just a little twist of the dial. It's not a massive change. You don't have to restructure who you are as a coach or a mentor. Just turn the dial a little bit on how you approach and how you keep that conversation open and growing, as opposed to directed.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just a little tenth of a degree, if that, difference, and all of a sudden, what that does is it creates that element of trust, and quoting Amy Edmondson from Harvard, that psychological safety, that I can go to them when I see something, even though I'm having doubts of what I'm seeing. I can see that and then go, well, let's take a look at this. It's like, okay, I can see that. What shade of green, and it's like, or if you really want to put them on the spot, ask them for the hex code. But that's the sarcastic Gen X person. I mean, so what's the hex code you're saying? Yeah. What? Yeah. But love this conversation, Jake. Where could people find out more about you and this amazing work you're doing?
Oaklogsandgasoline.com is my website. My book is available on all the platforms. Amazon is a really easy way to get it in 2 days. Available in hardcover, softcover, audiobook, ebook. I'm currently working on a Spanish translation for it, so we can reach that many more people. And that's it. That's where we're at. Looking forward to having as many people in this conversation as possible. It feels good. Every conversation like this feels good. And for mentors and managers out there in the workplace, if people feel safe coming to you with questions and ideas, they will fight for you. And if they don't feel safe around you, they're going to do the bare minimum and get out of there.
Yep. People don't quit jobs to quit their bosses. So love this conversation. Thanks so much. And congratulations on the book again and all the work you're going to get to do.
Thank you. I love the conversation. Thanks so much for that.
Thanks for listening to the Breakfast Leadership Show. If you're dealing with a toxic workplace or feeling stuck in a challenging job, you don't have to go through it alone. Join our Dealing with Toxic Workplace community today at community.breakfastleadership.com and learn practical ways to protect your peace, rebuild confidence, and lead with strength. See you inside the community.